So next up is the Public Works budget. We have Adam Alex, our new director here, and I'll let you introduce your team.
Good evening, everyone. To my right, we have Deputy Director of Municipal Operations, Thad Brown. To my left, Corey Gordon, Deputy Director of Engineering. Unfortunately, Travis McDonald, who is our Public Works Superintendent, is not here with us this evening. So as we go along, if you guys got any questions, by all means, just chime in and we'll get started. So what you have there before you would be a list of accomplishments for 2019. A fair amount of street reconstruction and paving that was done this, almost all of it is completed. For 2019, Broad Street, Province Terrace area reconstruction. We got the Melissa, Greenwood Court, Frederick Street, Lawndale, Grove Street, Lawndale Court also in there. Woodland Place, and the Menasha Library's parking lot. We're still struggling with the weather to try and finish up Willow and phases 2 and 3 of the ponds. Chances are we might as well get it out here right now. What's going to happen is that with the cold weather that we're facing here in the next week, we will not be surfacing those streets. What we are going to do is get a binder mat down on these streets. We are going to wedge the curb flanges. All of the manhole utilities will be set at binder grade elevation so that it doesn't interfere with our ability to remove snow and plow on these streets. It'll be a hard surface. Nothing different than what the parking lot of Jimmy John's was all of last year. And then this coming spring, we will come in and we will mill off these areas that are wedged, and we will put a final mat on there. Could we have gotten it done? Sure. Is it the right thing to do? No. With the temperatures, Corey and I talked on Tuesday. And looking at the weather for the next week, we made the decision that for pavement longevity, it was the right thing to do was to not put the surface on.
Do the residents on Willow Lane know this? I mean, are we going to send anything out?
A letter was generated today, and if it didn't hit the mail today, it will hit there tomorrow. So.
Okay. Thank you.
And then just so you guys are aware, Alderman Rapella and Alderman Nichols, as well as Chairman Kruger, were made aware of this here as we were making the decision to make the change. Pardon me? And Alderman Sevnich, the President of the Council. I'm sorry, sir. Yes. And just so you're all aware, we're not the only community in this predicament. A very wet, cold fall. I know that Corey is got his pulse on the construction end of things in northeast Wisconsin, and he's aware of many communities that are probably in worse situation than we are as far as where they're at and where we are at. So, all right, moving on.
The important thing that you should mention, though, is that he brought the 10-day forecast. Okay. Just so everyone knows, Saturday's going to be our heat wave of 38 degrees, and from there it's down. So I just think this is the right direction to go, and I think the streets will be in better condition for long term.
So before you go forward, do you want to tell them a little bit what the schedule is to get that binder into, or what the expected schedule is?
The expected schedule right now, we've had 3 crews the last 2-3 days working on the streets. Right now, Villa Way and Christella are ready to pave. There's supposed to be a paving crew there tomorrow. It's anticipated that they should be able to finish it or be very close to finishing. And then Saturday, they are going to pave Willow Lane. Any damaged aprons from some of the construction with the curb and gutter, we're going to temporarily patch that stuff so that it's a hard surface over the winter. Next spring we'll take that back out and finish those aprons up nice, finished product. Trying to do a finished product on an apron this time of year these temperatures isn't ideal.
Moving on, we continued with increased crack filling to try and extend the pavement life. And if you guys have any questions in regards to that, Corey is sort of, that's something that he brought forward last year, and we're gonna continue on with that, and you'll see that reflected in the street budget, spending a little bit more money in the crack filling. We also fabricated a second automated leaf collection vehicle. Our anticipated revenues are gonna exceed $340,000, approximately 31,000 over what was planned for 2019. Back on the construction end of things, we completed the community way extension, and then our engineering department oversaw the Province Terrace Boardwalk project. There is just a picture of Broad Street at Racine. This would be the library parking lot. I know Director Lenz is very tickled to death with it and the improvements that we made. There's the Province Terrace Boardwalk, and we did put in the Jefferson Park shore wall, even though we didn't mention it there. And then our Pride and Joy this year, here's our second unit. And just rest assured with the snow, we're still out picking leaves, so. So here's just an overview.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was waiting to be recognized.
Sorry, I didn't catch you. I was busy watching the screen.
Two things. You mentioned that leaf collection will continue
Yep.
through the week of Thanksgiving, like that
Correct.
Wednesday or something like that. Okay, that's
Correct.
good to know, because I know a lot of leaves went out and then it snowed again. And I don't want to dwell too much, because I know we've had a lot of conversations the last few days, but as far as construction and contracts go, and even leaf pickup or spring cleanup, really, I think it's time that we need to have a conversation and consider different timelines or different methods of getting these sorts of things done, because the weather has been an issue the last few years and probably will continue to be, whether it's spring or fall or even summer with heavy rains. So I think we need to start thinking about these things and planning for the future.
All right, thank you. All right,
Well,
so,
sorry, Adam, I got
Oh, I'm
one more
sorry, Randy.
question. The leaf truck does a great job. Years ago, you guys used to have like a second guy with a rake. You don't do that anymore, right? I haven't seen one, which, I mean, it probably must be a manpower issue.
well, it's a manpower boon to do this versus the trailer units or the non-automated.
Okay.
Yes, you'd have a gentleman out there raking and working the hose. Many times we'd have three people on one of
Okay.
the leaf crews, one running the hose, one raking or a
Right.
combination. So obviously this is gonna help us out immensely, and it certainly should help us stay on some sort of schedule if that's one of the things that you were driving at. I think it's going quite well with the two trucks.
Well, the gentleman who was out, I didn't get which truck it was, but he did a really nice job of making sure he sucked up probably 90% of the leaves that he could reach. So did a nice job. So it was, did the curb and did the street, and so did good work, so.
Good.
All right, thank you.
All right, so with the overview there, as you can see, we listed all the different service accounts that fall under our purview, and you can see in the total general fund from 2019 to 2020, we're looking at like a 1.19% increase. The recycling collection, that also sort of falls under the levy, so that's included there as well, and we're looking at a slight decrease, 2.6%, so our overall general fund budget, you're looking at about a 0.39% increase. What you will, and in doing so, just keep in mind that we had to reallocate some wages for both engineering and street department. That's due to closing of TIF 9 and then reduced activity in TIF 12. As you can see there, the totals, the total impact for street wages and the engineering wages, all of that has to come back into the three funds. They've sort of been spread across all three funds based on their impact in those funds and the amount of time necessary for the general fund and sanitary and storm fund activities. TIF 12, we eliminated all of the street wages. However, we did leave some wages out there for engineering, as there's still going to be some activity out there with the construction of new homes in TIF 12. So if you guys will kind of go through the budget book here on pages 42 and 43, the municipal buildings, for the most part, it's down slightly, primarily due to the elimination of the utilities for 140 Main Street. And then if you have any questions line by line, you know, by all means, fire away. And then we get into the Public Works section. Pages 81 and 82 would be the engineering department. Outside of, again, wages and salaries. Salaries and wages, there is a little bit of a shift, as the engineering supervisor was an hourly position, and now it's a salaried position as the deputy director of engineering. So there is a little bit of change there, but the overall increase from wages and salary from 2019 to 2020 is about a little over $10,000.
So Adam, do you want to talk about the civil engineering position and where we're standing on that as well?
Where we're at is we did get a candidate, and we liked what we saw. Has there been a conditional offer? Where are we at?
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like we might see him before the end of November here, so.
Adam?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, on page 43, down towards, 3/4 down, 51429.06, building rental. That's almost half of that, cost right there. What are we renting?
This
Yeah.
facility right here,
Oh, I'm
Manhasset City
sorry.
Center.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I was just clueless. Thank you.
Sure. So hopefully we'll be at full staff in the engineering department here by December, so. Street construction, pages 83 through 85. As I had mentioned there, the biggie on the pavement maintenance would be the crack filling. This past year, because our street construction contracts came in favorable, we expanded the amount of crack filling that we had done. Again, I know that Corey has spent some time looking into this, what other communities have done, and we spent about $72,000 in 2019, and we're looking to spend $70,000 in 2020. And again, we're certain that that will extend the pavement life of many of our streets. We're not throwing, good money at bad, on bad streets. Obviously, there's a point at which it doesn't pay. And we anticipate this number to continue to come down as we move forward with this maintenance activity, so. On small projects 24-05, you'll see that we have $30,000 in there, and that is to provide us with some funding to address Racine Street to help get that pavement to 2024 to 2025. The other big items there are obviously the supplies. We still have money in there for crusher rental to make our own stone. Obviously then some additional asphalt and miscellaneous supplies. And then under the 8202, the construction, street construction, State Street and Abbey are being funded through the general fund.
Alderman Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. I did see that Abbey Avenue is on the list, and I know that was moved out a few years, a couple of years ago, because Nina had removed that from its budget, so this is being done in tandem then with the city of Nina?
Correct. We've been talking with Nina. They're kinda taking the lead as far as the engineering portion of that street. A couple of years ago, yes, it was removed from their budget. They had asked if we were okay at that point with that, adjusting that a couple of years. We indicated yes. We basically substituted a different street
Okay,
a number of years ago for that.
thank you.
Alderman Sevenick?
So next year, we'll be doing State Street, which parallels, De Pere Street, which parallels with State Street, so, hopefully the contractor that's been delayed for this November can possibly come in with better bids. I'm hoping because they're all right next to each other. That's often been the case for contractors as long as they're like right next to one another. So I'm hoping, cause I was thinking 109 was low. So I don't know.
State Street, the intent with State Street, I believe, is a mill and overlay. So it's only gonna be 2 inches. Where De Pere Street, that's a rehabilitation
Are we
street.
going in and looking at any of the curb
Correct.
first and that?
Yep.
You'll see that in a little bit.
Curb, sidewalk, handicap ramps, things of that nature.
So Adam, do you wanna talk about staffing in Public Works, since we did that for engineering too, and where we're sitting on
How about
some
that?
of the
Would you
open
like to talk?
positions?
So we recently had 2 individuals leave the city of Menasha, so we are in the process of the recruitment process. We have done some interviewing, however, we're a little ways away yet in regards to getting ourselves up to full staff. It's a little challenging right now. We've got a few people out on FMLA as well. So it's a godsend right now that we have the second automated leaf collection vehicle out there to help us out, so. But, so we are a little light right now. We had in the budget, in the 2019 budget too, with the reorganization with the street department, the park department, we wanted to get additional help with our facilities. And last year, we had somebody budgeted for April through the end of December. It is now, November. We have been unable to fill that position. We had a candidate that we really, really liked, that we allowed to give him a little bit of time to get some affairs in order, fully expecting him to accept our offer, and then he kind of backed out. So we are close on getting someone on board to help out with facilities, and this individual, if he does accept, is also an electrician, so he will be able to help out with the number of street light and traffic light knockdowns that we've had. So that's where we're at staffing wise though. So. Moving on. Snow and ice removal, pages 87 and 88. There again, the plow blade inventory stays the same at about 18,000. As you can see, their salt prices went up a little bit. So we got about 74,000 in salt, and then a brace of $1,000. And just so everyone's aware that last year we did take it, we did use our 200 ton of reserve salt. That was funded by some money that we were able to carry over, but we were a community that did have enough salt. Our salt contract changed recently, requires you to fill your shed in the fall of the year. So if you happen to notice, like in 2018, salt usage or expenditure was only about $58,000. So in 2019, we kind of got hit because where our salt shed was sitting. So moving on. Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, Adam, I did a ride-along, a couple of ride-alongs, and one during a dry run, and the other when it was snowing or we got a big storm. So I see the plow blade inventory. I'm just wondering, is that enough? How much do the blades cost individually if they, if?
Well, they come
one
in
gets right?
sections because we have a lot of sectional plows. And to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you what our cost is. The one thing that we have been doing to sort of extend the life of our plows is we've added these carbides. So I think 2 years ago, we spent a fair amount of our plow blade inventory on those carbides. And what it is, that's on the leading edge, and that's usually the blade that wears out the fastest and is the one that needs to be replaced most often. So we've had good success with that, so we do believe that 18,000 is probably sufficient. The one thing that I know that we had talked about and maybe isn't in here is that would be we do a fair amount of the sidewalks and the trails, and now we picked up some additional trails that we'll have to maintain out east and on the boardwalk, would be our broom inventory. So that's something that we're hoping that that'll come out of that plow blade inventory, so
Okay,
hopefully we'll be in okay shape, so.
all right, sounds good. Thanks, Adam.
Street signs and marking, that would be page 90 and 92. Under pavement maintenance, okay, last year we had some money in there as well, and the intent was to contract with Calumet County to do some of our traffic line painting, primarily our long line painting. We really don't have a good excuse why we did not do that. It got to a point where it got so late in the spring that we did not reach out to Calumet County, assuming that they were already booked on their way, because they try and get, that machine is expensive, so they want that thing out on the street all summer long. We have been in contact with them. They are willing to come and do our long line painting for us. So that's not the issue. So anyways, we just kind of did it in-house, and our equipment isn't, our equipment's really set up for doing parking lots and a lot of our stencil work and our crosswalks. And this year we will make sure that we reach out to Calumet County early enough to have those folks come in and take care of our long line painting for us.
Adam, long time ago, we used to have you have the paint shop, but then they used to go out at 4 in the morning, and they used to do the lines for the street. That's not efficient anymore?
I'm sure some of you have seen some of our lines. The
Right.
piece of equipment, the piece of equipment that we have is really not designed to do that, and that's where the
Right. comment
I just made.
Sure.
And I'll tell you a quick little story. When the previous gentleman that was doing it, we had some discussions in regards to the quality of work, and he kind of asked me to follow along, and I did. And if you watch this machine, because it's such a narrow wheelbase,
Right.
years ago we had that Cushman, which was,
Yes.
so I'm following behind him, and sure enough, he hits a depression in the road. He didn't turn, but as that depression in the road tilted that machine, you'll see that line just go like that. Okay, so obviously we need to do something different, and we intend to do something different in regards to that. That too. So there again, though, we still have a lot of crosswalk stop bars. So we do have material in there for paint, glass beads, and then obviously sign and signed materials. And then the other thing would be the other equipment. We are going to put in an overhead rapid flashing pedestrian crossing signal on Plank at Melissa. And that will be battery operated or solar powered. So that is in the budget and coming out of the general fund.
Can we stay on that?
You bet.
Give me the history on that, because for years, there was a
Hang
line.
on, I'll turn.
Yeah, turn your,
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you on? Okay. there were, people on Midway Road looking for that type of thing, where the senior places are on both sides, and we were always told it's just way too much money to do that. And now we're doing an area that I think is, just because there's heck rod there, just give me the history on it, cause I wanna know how.
On that
came about.
location?
Yeah,
Because of the bike trail, heck rot, that is an area that, and maybe it's just because of its location to the city garages is there, or the other one that we had considered would have been like at London as well. But we were gonna look at Plank Road or out here by Melissa just because of our observations as far as traffic. Just so you're aware about Midway Road, I was at a meeting recently, and we met with the school district, the county, East Central Planning, Fox Crossing, so there is some momentum. They're looking at getting some, something out there, at least by Maplewood. But there was some discussion in regards to a road diet, in other words, relining Midway Road to try and improve pedestrian crossings out there as well, so.
and I would think that this location, is not as, I would think the traffic is not as high as where we all grew up as kids over by the swimming pool that you were talking about on London. I would think that that would have been a better fit.
I think part of the
We
thing.
had a crossing guard there.
Well, and that's sort of, the crossing guards have changed into these in-street pedestrian crossing signs. And I think the reason that we're looking at that is, unfortunately, is speed. You know, we right now have our temporary speed limit, radar detection sign out there trying to slow traffic down. I know Chief Stika is regularly having folks patrol that area, and I think that is the concern, because it's not only pedestrians, it's bike traffic there too that kind of shoot across the street. So that was one of the reasons why we selected that location, so.
Oh, and Adam, I'll back that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Stan. You're not done.
I just want to piggyback on, that is, oh.
Go ahead.
That,
You want piggyback, that's,
well, that section is very busy.
I realize that. They all
I take
are.
that all the time.
Right.
Cars do not stop. You
I just
can
don't
wait
see
for,
that much crossing there as I would at London. And you're dealing with kids. You know,
There's kids
we all
on-
were little kids at that pool,
right,
and we crossed that intersection, and we took away the crossing guard.
Correct.
And that was a battle up here at one time too. Eventually it went away, and I would have thought that would have been a more,
A better location.
a better location for this, but yeah, I'm not taking away from that area either, because I see a lot of people walking that, but I don't see them crossing. I'm seeing them come through,
no,
but then
they cross.
down the
And
road.
I've gotten to the point where I just
Right, right.
walk out and make the cars stop, which is not the way it's supposed to be. And I've seen,
Yeah.
And I think this is the beginning, to be honest with you,
Just don't want it.
Oh,
you know,
If we're gonna be doing a street, we don't want one on every intersection now. That's why I'm saying, have we done a real good job of studying this and saying, this is
the best
the best
location.
location? Because otherwise, before you know it, now we're gonna have one over there by Tony's Bar or something
Oh,
like that.
no.
you
I
know,
hear you.
so-
I understand.
So,
sorry.
community development does have a traffic study within their budget as well, so maybe we should hold off on the ordering and
We can.
installation of that until we get that study done too.
Adam,
Well, as you said, it may be not the best location.
well,
Correct.
No, I
Adam,
wouldn't take it out of the budget, I'm just saying ordering it.
yeah. Adam, I go by that intersection many, many times. One of the things, I don't know if it's well lit on that, Melissa and Plank Road. Well lit as far as the street light goes, but, also, I know I've almost nailed a few kids. They come out and they ride their bikes and it's pitch dark there and they have no fear. They're gonna, I slammed on the brakes twice. And they kind of smile because you almost hit them. And also, I think we have to worry about where the housing situation around those intersections too. What kind of, you're not going to have those, that level of, crossing over by, Tony's Bar. That doesn't happen. The housing situation over by Melissa and Plank Road, that's the clientele you're gonna have crossing that area right there. That's enough said. Thank you. I think it's a good spot to put in.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. Just so I'm clear on what we're talking about, are we talking about the dragon lights that are on Commercial Street by Casey and Nina Paper, or something
Different.
that's
It'd be
further
more-
down at like the Plexus Nina Plaza area there?
Downtown.
What
Yeah, like
this is-
downtown, thank you.
Well, I don't think downtown would, these are gonna be trombone overhead, so if you look over on Midway Road, go over by Midway, more to the east, by, what's the name of the
They
church?
would, they'd be really similar to the ones at the Y and Water Street on Commercial Street there.
Yeah, there's new ones
Okay.
at Oak Park. right?
Very similar to that, yeah, Oak Park as well.
I will take a look at those.
Yeah, Nina
Again.
Paper is the older style.
Yeah.
These are gonna be more
Okay.
similar to the rapid flashing that we have here on Main Street. It's gonna be but an overhead because of
Overhead.
the traffic,
Okay.
speed of the traffic there.
Yeah. A suggestion, and I know that I mentioned it to you a few weeks ago, if, the mayor said we're doing a traffic study, and perhaps a place to look for one of these in the future is by the Boys and Girls Club. That is a school crossing, and, with the Boys and Girls Club being there and them expanding, there's a lot of things going on at that intersection at certain times of the day, and people don't slow down at all. It's really bad. So something just to have in our minds. And I'm gonna move off that topic for a minute and go back to painting. And I could be wrong about this, but I feel like we paint crosswalks and other markings every year. Can you help me understand why that's a process that has to be done every year? Why it doesn't last longer?
If you want.
That's the way we have been doing it, is every year we're actually changing that up to do it in thirds of the city. So we did try this year, which got kind of kiboshed, was the grinding and then the painting of the lines to go down, so we're gonna go back to just painting them. We were trying to recess them to try to save it, the life of the paint even longer. So we're gonna try to do it every other year, every third year in the sections that we're doing. This is gonna be something that we're gonna have to monitor, so we're gonna have to have a little bit of time to do it, but we're gonna try different things, so we're not painting over that we don't have to. We have skipped streets for 2 years already, which are turning out to be pretty fine, but they're getting a little faded now, so we're gonna have to go back next year and hit them.
Yeah, I don't wanna hold it off for the sake of holding it off. If it needs to be done, is there, different paint that lasts longer?
We did just buy new paint this year, and that's the reason why we're letting it sit for longer now.
So we're gonna see how this paint works.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do you wanna talk
And we
about-
are paying a little more for the paint, I think it's $1 a gallon or something more. It's not
Yeah.
cheaper, it's a little more expensive, but it's supposed to last longer. This is the stuff the county uses, and they're going on 2 years to 3 years. Did you have something?
The other thing that we're doing, some of our newer streets, Broad Street is an example, Main Street, Province Terrace area, the more traveled areas, we're going with an epoxy paint rather than the water-based paint. It tends to last a little longer. Third Street was an epoxy paint, 2008, 2010, whenever that was rebuilt. So there is a little better longevity life of that material. It's a little more difficult for us to put that down because of the disposal and things of that. It's a little more expensive on the contractor end because you tend to have waste when you're striping things like the parking lot at the library, which we did in epoxy. Your price tends to be up a little bit, just because they can only paint so much. They have to keep that paint hot, and then they have to flush the system out and clean it. Otherwise, it gums the lines up and things like that. If they can paint straight lines going down the highway, they can 7, 10, 15 miles or something before they have to clean them, is my understanding on that.
Okay, thank you.
A few years ago, if I may just expand on the epoxy, we did have it identified in the pavement maintenance 2010 sub-account. However, we've been just writing that in the specs now of our street construction. So that's where you don't see it, but that has been what we've been doing for, I think, the last 3 years now, is new pavement, putting it down in epoxy, so.
Alderman Kruger?
Thank you. Well, I can testify to the epoxy paint, because I actually was up in Shawano County this year and accidentally ran over a yellow line while they were painting it, and I can tell you that paint is still on my truck and I can't get it off. That stuff is some really good paint. But I just one quick question about the pedestrian crossing. We do have a flashing pedestrian crossing right now over by London and Plank Road, correct? If I remember correctly?
I believe there is a older style that light just, if it still works, it just blinks.
It does.
24/7.
It's not the rapid.
It's not a rapid one, okay.
Correct, it's not drawing attention to that intersection at that time.
And these will be push button too, you know, where I think what you're referring.
Right now, it's just automatic, right?
When it's working, it's just, it's always flashing.
To build on that a little bit, Alderman Sebnick, you had mentioned Midway Road, and in the past there, and I don't know this for sure, I'm only speculating, the expense out there, that might have been prior to some of the solar panel type things. The ones downtown are solar panel, we don't have that hooked into our electrical system there. So the thought process out there might have been getting actual power and establishing that. Possibly, I don't know that for sure, but the technology has come quite a ways, so.
There's been less requests now because of Shopko closing though.
Yeah, true.
So
But anyways,
We did have a
but I do get a
request,
request
maybe,
often.
maybe a year ago, I'd say now. And I did talk to the county about that when Josh was still here. The county did not want pedestrian crossings, period, on Midway Road. We did show them that there already was a pedestrian crosswalk at that location. They did allow us to put signs, if you notice, at Midway Place, just alerting cars that there were additional pedestrians there, but they were not overjoyed with pedestrians on that street, period. So it may be something we can work on in the future, though, if they're talking about that at Maplewood now, too.
Alderman Nichols mentioned the Boys and Girls Club crossing at Racine Street and things like that. I'm not saying that's a bad location, it probably is a very good location for something of that nature. At this point, with the proposed construction at Racine Street, I would just be cautious of trying to shove one in there, because alignment, and we might end up having to take it down, store it, put a new base in. I think if we want one there, we look at, like Adam mentioned before, road diets and things like that, and that's all part of that DOT grant, is the pedestrian facilities. That's a requirement as part of that, so it would be looked at with that project, just so you're aware on that.
Moving on, crosswalks and sidewalks, pages 93 and 94, really no change there. Identifying the major amounts in the supplies, and I did want to point out that the wages and the equipment in that sub-account, or the sidewalk crosswalks service account, is where we spend the $30,000 that's in the 470 fund for sidewalks. So that 30,000 that you'll see a little bit later is just materials. This is where the labor and the equipment comes from for putting that sidewalk in. Street lining, pages 96 and 97. We increased the wages by a little bit there, as we are planning on replacing some of the Main Street decorative lights. There is $50,000 in TIF 10 for this year, this fall. What the intent was to purchase some this fall, and then right after the first of the year, There's another $50,000 purchased those, and they're about $6,300 a pop. That'll get us like 16 of them. What we did on Main Street here, the new section, is that the bolt patterns that were put in, a decision was made to accommodate these new lights. So the old lights that are there, we have a strut in there. We have some difficulties in keeping those tight. So we're a little uneasy by not, at least following through on these lights down here. The existing street lights, the reason that we kind of started down this path is that we can no longer get them. So we do have to, it looks similar. The one across the street here is the new one. I don't think most people at a glance would notice that there's a difference, but there is, and the bolt pattern on the base is different. So that's reflected in the street lighting budget, would be getting 16 of those replaced here this coming winter. So parking lots on pages 98 and 99. Sure. So 98, 99 parking lots really didn't change much either. Just wanted to point out that if you go line by line, you'll notice that the management sub-account 2106 is reduced because we are altering it would be the Main Street parking ramp frequency of the inspection. So that won't happen in 2020. Then we get to refuse collection. That's pages 101 through 103. There again, I think we're slightly down if I recall correctly. Just wanted to point out that you'll see that the tipping fees are less than 2019, and there was a little error made in the budgeting of 2019. The tipping fees that were reflected in the 2019 budget did not reflect the rebate that we get. Many years ago, we were given a $3 per ton credit because we are the furthest away from the original landfill in Oshkosh, and that rebate is carried forward. It hasn't ever changed. So we actually over budgeted last year for tipping fees. Alderman Rapallo?
Adam, yeah, thank you. Where do we take our garbage right now? Down to Oshkosh or to Outagamie County, or where do we?
Outagamie County. Outagamie County's closer. We could go down to Oshkosh, but that's a transfer station. It's the Tri-County Solid Waste Board, so it really doesn't matter. It is closer for us to go to Outagamie County, and that is why many years ago, Winnebago County provided us with that rebate so that we would take our garbage down there.
Right,
so.
because I was part of the ones who made the first sell
Yep.
down there. So, okay, so now we take it to Appleton, and it's
Correct.
a little shorter
And-
ride, and,
I don't know, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think we reached out to Outagamie County, and at that time, they thought maybe 7-8 years life left in that landfill, and at some point, all our garbage will be heading north to Brown County. So, yeah, so chances are that, I'm assuming that there'll be a transfer station over at the Outagamie County landfill, so I'm assuming that we will just continue to go there, so.
okay, so Oshkosh won't, do they still even take?
It's a transfer station, so if we could go, what happened a couple of times when they were working on the scales over here at Outagamie County, so for like a week, 2 weeks, we ran our garbage down to Winnebago County. What it is you dump it on a floor.
Oh.
And then they take a loader and they load it up into, a semi-trailer, an open top semi-trailer, and then they hauled it up here or up to Brown County.
Okay, understood. It's filled, both of those at Oshkosh are filled, all right.
Adam, that $42, is that net the $3?
That is net now.
Okay.
Last year, if you look at last year's
It's
budget,
45.
it said $44. We cranked her out, not realizing that the number they gave us did not reflect that.
So that's an automatic, you're gonna get that $3
Correct. Yes,
no matter what?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Thank you.
yes. And there's our DNR license. All our trucks that go to the landfill have to be licensed. Tools and equipment, carts, and cart parts. That's an annual thing. Weed control, pages 104 and 105, no major changes there, as is the situation with the lift bridges. This would be the recycling solid waste. This would be the curbside and drop site for recycling, pages 199 and 200. I just wanted to point out that if you look in there again, line by line, you'll notice that there's a decrease in the health sub-account, and we've had some changes, personnel changes, and when we do our budgets, there is some shifting that happens in total. I'm sure if you add them all up, the total amount for the health insurance is there. It's just how it got divvied up based upon our wage splits. So the other thing I wanted to point out is under the other municipalities, 2501, that would be our tipping fees. And for many, many, many years, we were paid for our cardboard, and we took it over to Paper Valley Recycling on Earl Street early in the year. They stopped paying us, and then we started getting bills, little bills turned into big bills. So there is an increase in the budget for having to either find an alternative location, which we can take it to the recycle center over at Outagamie County. Matter of fact, it sounds like we have started to do that. But I wanted to put some money in here just in case we find out it might be cheaper in the long run. So we wanted some options there to handle that. That's sort of a situation that we're all going to be faced in regards to recycling. It's a great thing for the environment. It's just one of those things that the markets are not there. Well, China stopped taking it, and now there's this glut, and they can't get rid of the material. So, all right, moving on. Recycling yard waste, pages 201 and 202. Again, nothing significant. Just wanted to make sure that, I'm not sure all of you are aware, but there is the recycling yard waste, and then there is the stormwater yard waste. The recycling yard waste is made up of 44% of our overall yard waste cost, which is chipping brush, picking leaves, spring cleanup, our composting efforts. There is some increased wages and equipment, and it's due to the potential hauling of our final disposal or the spoils. Last year, we did end up having to, years ago, we'd be able to haul some of our wood chips that wasn't able to be burned. We could take it over to the landfill. We just had the trucking costs. They'd waive the tipping fees, and then maybe they wouldn't waive the tipping fees. We did haul some material out to a location by Reed Field. However, our most recent grindings, they did take it. So we had, I think we paid for some of the fuel to haul it away, but it's one of those things that it seems like year to year. Some years we can get rid of the material, some years we can't. So we bumped that up a little bit. So. Then recycling appliances, that would be our Freon-based and scrap metal or bulky metal item collection, pages 203 and 204. When we had our full complement of summer help, we used to utilize them on this collection, and it's just an operational change how we're doing things. With the commercial routes, we don't have the summer help on garbage as much as we used to years ago, and you'll just see that there's more full-time wages there, and actually no summer help wages. Up slightly, but overall the recycle budget, if you saw, was down about 2.39%. So then we get into some of our utility funds. We have our sanitary sewer fund and then our stormwater utility fund. Sort of a summary there for you. The sanitary sewer fund is up a bit, primarily due to some sanitary sewer projects, and we'll point them out to you shortly. And then the stormwater utility fund is a modest increase, 3.43. And then again, realized that we had to shift some money out of the TIFs. The stormwater utility fund, stormwater, we spend a lot of time dealing with stormwater, so this utility fund did sort of pick up a little extra than the rest, other than the general and sanitary fund for those engineering wages, so. Sewer utility fund, pages 216 and to 219, engineering wages, salary increase due to the reallocation. Engineering, I know there was some discussion or comment made the other night, and again, our overall engineering, outsourced engineering has actually decreased from 2019 to 2020. However, in this engineering account, sub-account, we did increase it for televised inspections. We have to do some inspecting on Racine Street in advance of the planned construction coming up. And then we were notified recently that the state is looking to do Plank Road, maybe in about the same year, 2025. We'll see, so we'll have we'll see. We will need to be doing some additional televising perhaps over there as well, so. Vehicle rental did go up, I just want to point that out. We have been much more diligent in our sanitary sewer cleaning, so the truck has been out more often. Some of it is tied to the increased televised inspections, as we'll go out and clean in advance of the televising, so. And then we get into the 8202, which would be the construction, an increase of about 291,000. We got our I&I home grant program listed, lateral repair and reconstruction, which would be unplanned. And then our planned activities would be the Melissa Street relining, Abbey Avenue sanitary. With the Abbey Avenue project, it's going to be sanitary storm and street over there. And then Conservation North is in there.
On Melissa Street, as part of our televising prior to street construction, we identified some lines in there that we felt needed cured in place liners. Something similar that we did, the last project we did a lot of that was maybe like 2011, 2012, where they take the resin injected sock and pull it within the main, and then they cure it out with steam or hot water or things of that nature. Rather than digging the street up prior to construction, timing and things, we chose to go with this route. Yes, we have a lot of lines right now within the city that are cured in place lines, things of that nature. And we're, I don't want to say cautious, but we observe, we have a lot of experience with them, so we have a good handle of what we want to try and line and what we don't want to line, just based on condition and things of that nature. So in this situation, we feel it's a good option.
So if you did it the typical way, it would probably be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars? Maybe?
It could be. I don't remember specifically the length and things of that nature, but it could be.
Corey, is that the whole Melissa Street, or are you just talking a section, the northern part of Melissa?
It would be the northern part, the section that we did some asphalt paving on this year.
Okay.
This $50,000, I apologize, might include some lateral type rehab, connection rehab, non-dig type things. We felt in this situation with the construction timeline, this is a goal of mine to have projects 2 years in advance on drawings, plan, things of that nature, televising 2 years in advance, so that we're seeing these things ahead of the year that we're trying to construct it, not having any money in the budget and trying to make a knee-jerk reaction decision to how do we fix it. So it's something we're working toward.
Then we get into the storm engineering, that'd be page 223. Here's where we chose to increase the wages and salaries by 20,000. And again, primarily due to the reallocation that needed to be done. In the supplies, you will notice we have signs, plants, rain garden, 3,000, educational materials, 2,000. What we're looking at doing there would be some education in regards to the Province Terrace Pond, the Conservancy, wetland, and then redo the rain garden at Station 36. So, and obviously some miscellaneous supplies. Storm street construction, pages 223 to 225. This would be curb and gutter supplies, labor, equipment, and supplies. Replace curb and gutter. We got some crushing in there as well, and our concrete and supplies. And then 8202, the budget book will list out the curb and gutter portions of the street projects. Totals 293,000. Storm street cleaning, that would be the street sweeper activities. That's spread over several pages, 224 to 226. Wages and equipment rental increases due to increased sweeping. There's your wage increase and your equipment increase. And this is another thing too that like the sanitary cleaning, part of our stormwater management plan that we report to the state, the DNR, there's certain levels of street cleaning that we need to do. So we've made a concerted effort to match what we're supposed to do in actually getting it done. So.
And how are we doing on that?
Very well. We'll be tallying everything up here shortly for the report that Corey has to generate.
Yeah, thank you.
Storm, snow and ice removal, no significant changes. That's page 226. And then storm sewers and drains. This is the actual storm water. This would be inlets and the actual pipe. Ponds, outfall structures, all that good stuff. That's pages 226 through 229. Under the engineering, obviously we got our normal diggers hotlines. We increased our sewer televising and cleaning. And then we have the Lake Park Villa ponds in there. And that is to evaluate the ponds out there to try and get them into our stormwater management plan and become potentially a regional ponds for us. So 2405 would be the rear lot drainage program. We always had been budgeting under 8202. However, it really belongs under the small projects. And we've been budgeting typically for 3 projects. Is that where we get the 15 from?
Yeah, right now, I believe in the past, we budgeted 10,000 for that. There are a significant amount. We've kind of changed that program a little bit as far as how we're able to manage it, and we're hoping with the efficiencies that we're changing that we're going to be able to handle more of those complaints and things of that nature. So that's where right now the applications and plans that we have for going forward, we have 3 to 4 projects that people are asking for. So that's where that dollar amount comes in.
And then also under the small projects, we have miscellaneous repairs would be unplanned, non-capital type repairs that come up from time to time. And then our planned activities under the construction 8202, the Broad Street pipe bursting project, we do intend to get that done this year. Stormwater or storm manhole inlet pipe repairs. To Pier Street, there is some pipe work that needs to be done in relationship to that reconstruct out there, as well as Abbey Street. The The Lake Park Villa pond rehabilitation would be that north bridge, north dam structure that is undermined. There was money and we're in the process of engineering a solution for that. This would be the cost to implement what we're going to do there. And then the 9th Street Pond, if you look in the CIP, it was broken out, 175,000 this year, 200,000 next year. However, and maybe Corey can elaborate a little bit more, it's my understanding that originally it's part of our stormwater management plan to put a pond there. And I think the original intent was to put a pretty good sized pond. There might have been some land acquisition in order to do so. However, the neighbor to the north bought that house, really improved that transition between our parking lot and his home. And we as staff talked that we would like to still look at putting something there, maybe not quite as large. So whatever was planned as far as the amount of water that we could treat, stormwater that we could treat there, obviously we won't be able to treat as much, so we'll have to shift that to some other area. So we left that in there with thought of doing something, and that'll be a goal for 2020 to get something in there.
Where would the water be coming from to go to that 9th Street pond?
Some of it comes down 9th Street. There might be some that comes down Taco.
Taco from the north?
South, there might be a
So isn't
little.
a lot of that also Fox Crossing?
There is a small percentage of that pond, that potentially would treat a small area of Fox Crossings in that situation.
They sharing in the cost?
We have not approached them on that yet.
It's just another example.
Yep.
The original intent with the larger pond would be, I believe we could alter some storm sewer to accommodate more of the city and the village, sharing in the cost of a larger pond. But again, with the property to the north, the intent was that that house probably could have been purchased at a fairly cheap price. I don't believe that's the case any longer. That house has been fixed up pretty nice now, and I'm assuming that individual wouldn't want to sell that house.
Oh, I'm sorry. Adam, so that pond is gonna, or Corey, that pond is gonna kind of be where the parking lot is?
Correct. The intent with the pond now would be that it would lie within that parking lot, kind of grassed area.
Sure.
The parking lot would be reduced in size, obviously. It wouldn't completely go away as far as a boat launch parking lot, but the amount of stalls for trailer parking there would be minimized.
Got it. Thank you.
Storm parking lots, that would be removing snow from the parking lots. That's what comes out of there. That's page 229. History shows us that we need to increase our rental, so we bumped that up slightly. Storm yard waste, again, that's 56% of overall yard waste costs, and really no significant changes there. And then we get into the city garage fund. The public works line item is operations, and then the street equipment below would be the equipment purchases. We're up a little bit there. The public works facility operations side of things, that would be page 231 through 234. Overall increase is about 32,000. Well, it is 32,633, and of that, 28,700 is fuel. What we do when we put the budget together, we go online and we kind of see what the U.S. Department of Energy expects fuel prices to be in 2020, and then we sort of adjust accordingly based on what they expect prices to be. So most of our increase is made up of that. And then when we get into the street equipment, they're listed. Alderman Grady?
Well, I think I talked about this last time. The fuel stuff, that's nothing you can buy on hedge or
Okay,
buy
years ago we
into-
did,
it'd be
okay?
Savings, but maybe now it does.
Years ago, we did. We would come to the council, sign a contract, lock in, and 2, 3 years, we did really good. And then 2 years, we got burnt, so we just been paying market, so. So here, this would be the equipment, page 242, number 11 is a low bed dump truck with plow and salter. I see we don't have a price on there, but I believe it's 100,000. And then 2008 is a 2005 pickup truck. We're looking to a SUV for the health and city hall. That's the 24,000 is a Chevy Equinox. As I had made mention during our CIP workshop, we have looked at hybrid. We have looked at electric. And we've been making most of these types of vehicle purchases through the state of Wisconsin cooperative purchasing agreement. And again, we do get really good pricing. And what they had available for true electric, and I'm not quite sure we're quite ready for that. The mayor and I did have an opportunity to meet with someone from Manure, Wisconsin, and we are going to look at that. There are vehicles within our fleet that probably would be ideal candidates for an all-electric vehicle, but not quite yet. And then we have Sandy 3. It's a 2004 automated refuse truck. This is the one we rebuilt the engine in 3-4 years ago. It is primarily a backup. What we're trying to do there is you see used, we believe we can pick one up slightly used. It will be a tip body, so that in about 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, that it'll be our next automated leaf collection vehicle. And then the other thing, what we were trying to do, and I should have maybe presented a slide, what we're trying to do is get our refuse collection vehicles on like an every other year replacement schedule. What had happened a few years ago, a number of years ago, they went back to back because we got really good deals. Well, kind of puts us in a quandary if we have to replace 2 in 1 year because of how expensive they are. So this will sort of help us out in 2 ways, we believe. 71 is a pickup truck, a 2004. Number 12 is the loader that we came to you folks here recently and made an early purchase. We wanted to list it, show it, so that it's, we're not spending more next year. Our amount is our amount that we try, and it's usually right around the $550 a year. That may need to, obviously will need to increase over time based on prices of equipment. And then the other item there is the new, it'd be a pole setting attachment. It goes on the skid steer. We've contracted out some assistance in setting poles, and it's a pretty slick piece of equipment and save us a lot of time when we do have to replace street lights or traffic lights. And then we get into our capital improvement fund, pages 274 and 275. These are our street construction projects underneath the general obligation debt. Lisbon Avenue is a rehabilitation. Manitowoc Street is reconstruction. 7th Street, the original plan was mill and overlay. Corey and I took a look at that and decided pardon me? It was a rehabilitation?
That's what we're planning.
Okay. 9th Street would be a mill and overlay. The Pierce Street rehabilitation. Racine Street design only. We wanted to put some money in the budget for that as we move forward with the DOT. And then we get into some of the subdivisions that fall under this, Conservation North, Gosling Way East, Lake Park Heights, and then Grassy Meadows Lane subdivision. And then, some other construction that's in there would be obviously our sidewalk replacement program. As I had mentioned earlier, there's the $30,000 for, spot replacement. We rotate our way around the city. Obviously take care of, trip fall hazards that we've been notified of, and then any other areas, other sidewalk in the defined area, and, for the replacement, and again, the labor and equipment come out of our, general fund, sidewalk, crosswalk account. There is 33,000 for Midway sidewalk, and that would be out, by 441 heading, to the east, to match up to, some sidewalk there. And then obviously the, Public Works facility is also listed in there. Alderman Rapala.
Thank you, Adam. I see that you have 9th Street in there from Appleton Road to Melissa. Not a bad street. One that you should keep your eye on, Milwaukee Street is another one that could be the following year, right, Stan? Yeah. So I'm making a list for the following year, so. all right,
I
thank you.
believe Milwaukee Street is someplace in the CIP, right?
Yeah, we could look that up here in a few
Okay.
minutes. Pardon me?
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Alderman Nichols?
Well, thank you, you're running the meeting.
Well,
Thinking ahead, and knowing that we have 3 streets that will be incomplete at the end of 2019, the end of this year, that need to be completed next year, how does that, what does that look like then, as far as costs and borrowing plans?
obviously what we don't spend this year would be carried over, because we will not be paying them until we are done, but our costs will not change there.
That's
For
because
this
our
year.
mics are on.
So close.
There will be some expense from this year with those projects. You know, obviously progress payments and things of that nature. The retainage would be adjusted accordingly because of the progression of the project. We have that flexibility in that, but as far as, not paying anything for the point that we're at right now, I don't feel comfortable doing that. You know, we can adjust the retainage, but zero payment would be unfair.
Yes,
I guess.
I understand that, and maybe my question's better directed at, Director Jacobs. I'm curious how it would affect the borrowing, I guess, because we only borrow for what we need a year at a time, so we would still need, funds to finish those projects next year.
That would be something I would want to work with the engineering department to find out, is there an amount that they would not need for 2019? And then we would end up borrowing for that remaining portion in the 2020 CIP. We don't have it budgeted that way right now, but I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could come up with a ballpark number of what that amount might be. Or we end up doing it as a carry forward or something.
That's what I thought it was.
I borrow for only the amount that's actually going to be expended this year, and any of the remaining part of the project would get done. We would just carry forward that budget remaining amount in April of 2020.
Okay, so it sounds like there's still some things that have to be worked out with what that will look like,
Yes.
going forward. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick?
I just wanted to mention that conservation north, that's behind the water plant area,
The Appleton Water Plant.
yeah.
Are you looking at me?
Your mic is on, yeah.
I just turned it on so that people could hear me if I said something.
Alderman Rapella, Milwaukee Street, is in the 5-year CIP for 2022.
Then we get into the TIF districts. Obviously, there is nothing budgeted in District 9 as the expenditure period is ended. TIF 10, page 289 is where we have the decorative streetlights for downtown budgeted. There's 50,000 for 2020. And then we get into TIF District 12, pages 294 and 295. And engineering wages obviously decreased due to, correspond with activities out there. There is $12,000 budgeted for additional terrace tree plantings out there, and then $10,000 for the Highway 114 trail connection from, is that Whisper Falls, where we put that sewer extension to tie into there, so.
Corey, is that terrace tree plantings, is that gonna be some of that stuff that's going behind a couple of those houses on, that we walked behind?
It would not be the intent there. The terrace tree planting would be for, the portion of Villa Way that's under construction.
Okay.
The portion of Christella that's under construction.
Okay.
We typically plant an LP or all LP,
Somewhere.
some of LP.
But we'll be able to find some money if we need to put some trees and stuff where where we talk with those families.
Yes,
That would be Park and Rec money?
yeah, I would believe that would be something Brian would be able to.
Okay.
We wouldn't specifically, this is more because of street reconstruction, construction type plantings.
Okay, understood, thank you.
So in addition, those terrace tree plantings, we have 2 potential grants that we're looking at as well, to see if we might be able to decrease that amount a little bit and get some grants to do some of those areas.
So you're gonna plant them in the spring, or are you gonna wait till the fall?
The
So that
spring.
we have an early winter. Sorry for the little dig, everyone.
And I think that's it. Any questions? Other questions?
Steve?
Yeah, Adam, now, this one, I don't know where this would have played in the budget and all that, but, it was either last year or the year before, we talked about the pest control along the walkway and stuff, and your department was gonna concentrate in trying to get rid of that more. Did that work out well?
Pest
The spider spraying and all that, on all the foliage along the Riverwalk.
We sprayed it 3 times this year. I didn't notice a difference. I didn't see a lot of spiders down there. I've just heard complaints about it. Even when we were spraying, we didn't see any down there, but we did spray all the Riverwalk down there with the foliage that hangs over the wall, and all the pavilions 3 times this year, so.
And you're gonna plan on repeating that this next year? then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And, the last question I had then is going way back to the very beginning. I talked about the wages that came out of the TIFs that were no longer able to absorb that. Okay, what was the dollar amount again, roughly, that now the general fund is taking care of?
Instead of flipping through there. Yeah, right there.
Takes it away.
Oh, I didn't break it out here, I'm sorry. I'll get you guys some numbers.
Is there approximate, because the reason why I'm bringing that up is because over the last several years, that was a big concern for the department, that the department knew that this is coming, and the fear is that the budget was going to
All of a sudden?
drastically go out of whack
Correct.
because of that particular, instance, and I want to
Correct.
just say, you guys did a great job of having the budget absorb that
Yeah.
without an incident, and I want to congratulate you guys for that, because I know that was a huge concern for the last several years. So.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Public Works?
That's it then, right?
Looks like we are done. Thank you, gentlemen, for, all those in favor? We are adjourned, thank you.